might not want. Thank you, Grace. So good morning and welcome to this session on successful approaches to supporting student digital development. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started as quickly as we can. Excuse me. Hopefully we can see that okay, everybody. And if you can give me a thumbs up, thank you. So what we're looking to think about today, the reasons why we would like to develop digital skills within students and how we do that as well. So a couple of really key questions. So the first thing I would like to ask, and what I'm asking for maybe, is if you can look at your reaction emojis, whether you agree with this or not. So this is just, I found this article fairly recently from Inside Higher Ed, and the title of the article was about digital media literacy, and there was this quote which I found quite striking, which suggested that the current state of digital literacy for the students within this University of Houston person's experience was abysmal. So just from, if you can, hit reactions or put in the chat whether you agree or not agree from your experience, whether you think student digital literacy skills are abysmal. It feels fairly harsh to me, but I have experienced lack of confidence in some students that I've dealt with over the years as well. And this, I suppose, I thought it might be quite a striking place to start from. Like I say, I don't know if I would necessarily agree with the statement itself, but it certainly gives us a flavour of what is being experienced around the world, I suppose, with digital literacy skills. And what's key for us working in this sector that is there to support those people is how might we support people the best way possible. And there are a number of colleges, universities that I've worked with over the past 3 years at my time at JISC who've done some fantastic things to support staff and students. And what we want to do is try and coalesce that into some kind of list, I suppose, of things that you might take away and think about your approach to student digital development. But first, let's just have a look at what we're going to cover. So why should we act? What is the current data telling us? How can we deal with these issues that are arising within our different institutions? Looking to focus on the discovery tool as well, which might be a fantastic solution for you, which does have a student focus. Then we'll have a look at some examples of successful approaches in other institutions. And then finally, we're going to hopefully have a bit of a discussion so we can find out your stories, your challenges, maybe even your approaches that have worked well in the past. It's probably tautological to go through this information. We've all lived through the pandemic and the explosion of the digital skills needed within education. But it's important to reflect upon that. And there was a huge acceleration in the way things worked from 2019, then beyond as well. Not only have we had that pandemic, but obviously AI has changed workplace and digital skills requirements too. And therefore there are changes in student expectations and needs. Digital capabilities are key employability skills, as we all understand, and employers are looking for this type of knowledge and the transferable skills that people might get from confidence within digital skills. And of course, we're in roles that we need to try and support people for jobs that don't even exist yet. And that's a huge question mark for us all to think about. Where are we now? A couple of my colleagues, Dom Walker and Claire Killen, have just recently, last week actually, have produced this report from the Digital Experience Insight Surveys data on digital poverty. And I thought it was a useful place to have a look at and think about how can we support student digital development from lots of different angles. So not just maybe the training that we need to support somebody getting better at Excel, whatever it might be, but also thinking about those other issues that somebody might face within their student life and the working life that might need some extra thought and support. So this report, and it's hopefully Grace has put the link to that in the chat there. This report shows us that there are many students who will complain, I suppose, of not having the right equipment, software and resources needed to do their work. Wi-Fi is a constant big issue for students, and it probably is for many of you staff too. And I know from my experience, in particular working in an FE college, that in some campus areas, Wi-Fi was really poor, and that does disadvantage staff and of course students too. Sometimes students found it hard to access support, so that's something for us to think about as a group of people working in that area, and how we can maybe message and bring students to where the support is. And also people thinking that, because I suppose some students might feel that they're customers to a degree now, that this kind of support should all be included as part of the fee. So we've got lots of different things going on, physical needs, resource needs, that sort of perspective of what they deserve as well. So lots of things for us to consider. So looking at that report, there are a number of really interesting bits of data and some graphs that I'd like to share with you. That again just shows the breadth of the issues we need to think about. So this first one just shows us, personally for me, that if we're learning on campus or at home, we need to make sure that we can support those groups of people to be able to do either or. So, obviously there's not as many people maybe working at a place of work or in public spaces, but thinking about how we can support digital skills development so that if they're on campus, we can support that maybe easier than if they're at home. But if they are working from home, as a lot seem to be doing, how can we offer that support with a much more elongated link to our people? This next one shows us what kind of issues people are facing as well. You can see the Wi-Fi connection is always one of the key things. Lots of people thinking that they don't have any issues, which is really great. But we can see from there that there are a number of things that we might have to consider in our jobs of digital development, digital support, and how we might overcome those issues are really difficult questions to answer. Not having any kind of equipment is a big issue too. We can see the link there between being on and off campus, how it's sort of not as elongated again as we might think. But lots of things for us to consider so that students can access their curriculum as easily off campus as they might be able to do on campus. And then finally, we can see from this graph that students are accessing or engaging with a number of different digital offers. So we need to make sure that that support is there, that they have all the resources and they have the skills and the confidence allowing them to engage with those things fully. So a number of bits of data there I think are really interesting in the scope of what we face day in, day out. Some of those issues we might not be able to address ourselves and need support from the wider institution, but some things that we might have a direct authority over. And it's thinking about how do we get a system of support embedded across our service and across the institution so that students can feel much closer to the curriculum and closer to engaging with all parts of their learning as needed. If we look at the trends, apologies for this slide, I appreciate it's really ugly. What I want to do is show that the digital experience insight surveys, so the data that we get from that year on year, is showing sort of similar trends in that students still feel they don't have enough support for their digital skills. Their digital skills aren't as good as they would like them to be, that they're not really being assessed on their digital skills. They're not having the time to explore these types of things, and that there's not much recognition for skills that might exist currently or things that could be developed in the future too. So it shows us that there is still some work to go through, and this might hopefully, this session today, support us in thinking about how we do that ourselves. So what I would like to introduce to you is one of JISC's solutions, which is the discovery tool, which you might have some awareness of. This is part of what we call the Building Digital Capabilities service. So if you did buy into this, it's not just the tool you get an awful lot of other supportive things to help you too, such as a really good website with tons of information, support, guides and guidance on there, some great case studies, which I'm highlighting at the bottom there, which show you how other organizations have approached the issues of staff and student digital capability. You also can be part of a really vibrant community of practice. We have a number of events throughout the year which can support you in your own digital development rollout, but also just link you to people just like you around the world, as we have members as far down as Australia that are doing the same kind of thing and facing the same kind of challenges. And also you get consultancy through the likes of myself, my colleagues, Mike, who would have been here today, and Becky, who works with HE as well. We've got a number of staff who can support you in getting the right solution for you. The tool itself is a really interesting tool which allows an individual to essentially do this themselves. So if you don't have very many resources, if you don't have an awful lot of time, an awful lot of money to roll out the whole embedded system with HR, etc., then an individual can do this on their own because it's a self-administered quiz. And this is all about personal reflection. This isn't an attainment test. This isn't an assessment. This is about an individual taking the time to think about their digital skills and their digital confidence levels, putting that information into the tool, receiving a personalized report. And then, as you can see, we've got approximately 1,000 curated resources attached to the tool so that they can start their journey of development as quickly as they need to. The tool itself was developed in combination with HE and FE organizations, and we regularly consult with the sectors to make sure that the tool is developing in exactly the right way for them. We also offer a commercial, a de-educationalized version too. So organizations that might not have students as others, they can look to develop their staff as well. We do have a very specific student focus for the Discovery tool, which is obviously one of the key parts of the discussion today. So as a student at an organization that is a member organization, they can look at a number of different question sets to reflect on their skills. They might look at the new students one, which is a pared down version of the larger current student question set, which gives you just a quick flavour of where you might be at the moment. But then there is that slightly larger current student question set for HE and FE students. And we have just released, just a couple of weeks ago, the student question set for AI and generative AI. And hopefully by the end of this month, we will have released the student employability question set too. We've got the date there for June, but we're hoping that hopefully this is going to be there by the end of May. So there are a number of different areas of focus that a student at your organization could think about, or you could embed a system to move a student along their digital journey as they move through their career at your university, your college, your educational establishment. And it just allows you to really focus on exactly what your students might need and then work with them to develop them through the time that they are with you. Sitting behind the tool, we have this framework. The framework is on the website. It's under Creative Commons license, so it can be used. Feel free to use it. Lots of our organizations that work with us now use it to create their own why. It helps them to build their own culture. And that's a really interesting starting point if you're thinking about successfully dealing with your students to develop their digital skills, is creating that reason why we're doing this. We're focusing on the key issues there of digital proficiency and productivity. And as you can see from the other 5 sectors, digital well-being is the largest. That's something that's really important to us. We want that to be seen as a key focus because at the end of the day, sometimes we can forget with digital skills that there's a person behind it. I spoke to a college just last week who just rolled this out with their staff team, and the key message that they were giving there was the emotional response to anything, I suppose, to any kind of change, any kind of development. And I think that's a really important place to start with, is how do we move people from one place to another making sure that they feel they're part of it, and we think about the worries, the fears that people might have, certainly around digital skills. So this framework might be a really great starting point for you, just to think about how you could adapt that or use it wholesale if you wanted to buy into this system. That will allow you to begin that journey of messaging across to your people. This is what we're doing this for, and these are the key aspects of our focus within digital development. And you can use those broad headings to list specific tools to create a specific pathway for your students as well. But what do we mean when we talk about proficiency and productivity? Within the tool, what we're looking at is a number of different things that will allow a student to be able to use specialist digital devices, to be able to access and use the platform that you use so they can participate, complete assignments, and be a successful student within your organization. Hopefully the tool will help them get that confidence and the skill to be able to deal with little problems, or at least to know where to go for support and to manage their own personal security and privacy. And most importantly, to think about the limits of their own digital skills, to embed that as part of them as a whole person, and where they might go for support and develop in the future. As part of productivity, what we're looking to think about are, how do I use the tools that I want to use? Which ones are of value to me? Which ones are the right ones for different, maybe bits of coursework, different tasks? Can I look at a range of content and manage that well? Can I retrieve it, review it, use it really efficiently and effectively? Can I work across different devices if I'm working with multiple groups, maybe for presentations, things like that? Can I use different devices, different applications, and manage my tasks in a really efficient way? Can I use different versions, track changes, support the development over time, and be adaptive and move with the times? As we know, things change really quickly within the digital world, and have that confidence to try things and use my initiative and maybe figure out new tools and use them as well as I can. What many universities do is use the Discovery tool as a pre-arrival or induction starting point, thinking about digital fluency as a key skill that we want people to be able to move fluidly through different tools, different software, different resources, and think about how the Discovery tool might support that before students even turn up on campus. There are 7 different areas of digital capability to reflect on within the students' question sets, and this might start a cycle of really good continuous digital development, we could say. In the website, there are some role profiles for students within HE, learners within FE, that you might adapt as well. This again is a really great starting point to say to your students that if you come into our organisation, this is the kind of support, or this is the kind of person we're going to help create with you. So by the time you leave, you will be this type of digital citizen. And this is also really useful for working with international students preparing for that digital transition. You might have a number of international students coming into your organisation, and they might not have anywhere near the digital skills that nationals from the United Kingdom might have. So how do we prepare them? How do we ease that transition across from a very different way of working to the one that we're going to offer? And the Discovery tool might be a really great way of bridging that gap, bringing those people with you in a gentle manner. We've spoken to organisations in Sri Lanka, around South America and Australia, and around Europe as well, who are looking at this type of thing. How do we support that move from one area to another, not just physically, but also digitally too? Once an individual has completed a question set, they will receive a report that looks a little bit like this. And it allows that person to either be part of an organizational wide process, think about how you might have drop-in sessions to discuss the report with individuals, or tutorial systems might take up the slack here, and allow an honest and open conversation to come off the back of this report, which you get immediately after you complete a question set. But also, it might just allow, if we can't offer that level of support, the individual to begin their journey on their own and think about what comes next. So it's a detailed, personalized report. You can see on the left-hand side there, you get that lovely little data visualization, which shows you just in an image where your strengths and weaknesses lie. At the bottom, the bottom green arrow there, you might be able to see report comparison overlay. If you've taken this question set on multiple times, you can then choose different dates and it will show you how far you've traveled over that time. And that's really useful for finding out where you've progressed and regressed. And again, that might allow just a much more prioritized list of what's important to me and what is my bespoke learning pathway for digital development. The report then breaks the areas down into more detail. You will receive a level. And again, remember, this isn't an attainment test. It's just a gentle nudge, one of 3 levels: developing, capable, or proficient, which would allow the individual to think about where they are now and what might come next. But we don't want people to stop at the level. And from my time working at university as an academic advisor many years ago, one of the things we all used to fear was a student receiving a score and an assignment and thinking 60%, that'll do for me. We don't want people to think about that. We want some feedback so that we can develop them in exactly the right way. So within the report, there are some next steps. There's gentle language used in those next steps as well. We're not expecting people to rush off and do things and feel pressured. There's just some gentle nudges for people to think about how they might move up to the next level for them. But beyond those next steps, as you might be able to see at the bottom right there, from those little icons, we've got a range of resources that sit there within the report on a little carousel, which highlight some of the key resources in that area. So the individual can start their journey of developing their skills and their knowledge immediately. They can jump straight in. The key thing to remember here is that you can personalize this to a degree as well. So that first button could either be a key resource that you think is really important for your students to think about, and it might link them to that specific resource that you host on the virtual learning environment or wherever it might be. Or, in particular, in further education at the moment, what lots of colleges are doing is creating their own digital resource bank. So over the years, you've probably created a million resources, certainly through lockdown, on how to use different bits of software, different tools within your organization. And what colleges are doing now is looking at the resource bank within the Discovery tool, because they're open source, cherry picking the ones that complement their own offer. And then that first button is a link back to their, let's say, Digital Academy, which might be on SharePoint, it might be on Canvas, might be on Blackboard, might be on Moodle. And it just allows you to host all of the resources in exactly the right place, so that it's a very seamless move for your students to go from their place of reflection to their place of development, all in that one button. On the other side of the report, which is a personalized report that only that individual can see, but we would advocate that they can share that with somebody and have that honest, open discussion. As an organization, you'll get high level data, which you can really drill down into to find out where the issues are and hopefully save some time in the interventions that you want to put on to support your people in exactly the right way. So the 2 charts we can see here on the right-hand side, we have the comparison with the sector, and that can be really powerful in thinking about where you are as an organization, where your people are. Oftentimes, and again, I'll speak from a college point of view here too, we sometimes feel that our college isn't very good, or that I'm not very good as an individual. And seeing this sector graph can be really powerful in showing to your staff and your students, we're doing really well here. We deserve some commendation, we deserve some praise, we deserve some thanks, maybe even for developing our people in exactly the right way and putting them ahead of the game across the sector. On the left-hand side, you get a really nice, interesting graph, which just shows you at a real quick glance where those strengths and weaknesses lie. And that means you can make interventions based on the areas of digital capability, Or we can drill down in the different departments and work on the departments. For instance, let's say health sciences, we might focus on those and what we want to do to support them to develop better digitally. So the data allows us to drill down into much more detail, such as within the heat map, which we haven't shown here, but if we look at different areas of the heat map, for instance, we might click on digital learning and health sciences, and it will bring up the aggregated anonymized scores, as you can see here. So not just the percentage of the questions where people have said, I can do this thing, but also the confidence levels you can see in that blue line underneath, which will allow us to really think about what do we need to work on here? Is this confidence? Is it ability? Do we need a real light touch, or do we need a huge training session which is going to develop these people in the right way for their particular needs? So that data dashboard is really important in saving you some time, giving you the information that you need. You can download the data in different formats, present that to wider groups as well, and show the organizational development over time too. So in our work within the department, we're always constantly looking at how we can support the sector even more. And as I mentioned earlier, we've just recently released an AI question set. And what we're looking to do is think about those key issues that your students might face. There's also, if you use the Discovery tool, there's an AI question set for staff too. And then think about how we can develop them in the areas that they might need. So thinking about different sections on productivity and creation and using digital literacy skills, things like that, with AI. So you can develop your students in a very specific and meaningful way for the issues that they face with too. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got digital skills for employability coming out soon. We have worked with JISC staff, and we're currently working with people within the sectors as well to reflect the need for an honest and open dialogue on what do our young people and slightly older people might need when they leave their study. Graduates need a set of transferable skills to support jobs that don't exist yet. We're trying to think about the ability to adapt and be flexible, as well as those core digital skills that are needed. One of the colleges I spoke to recently had spoken with their employers that they use quite a lot, and they'd boiled it down to, I think, maybe a list of 5 core skills, such as using Word, using Excel, using sort of photo and video editing skills as well, to build up an approach to dealing with their learners so that they can say, as we're using the Discovery tool, what we want to do is sort of nudge you towards those areas that the employers in this area are looking for, so that you're a fully rounded individual as you leave. You've got all of the content, knowledge, and skills from your course, the employability skills that might come from certain programs, but also those digital skills to support. Thinking about, I don't particularly like the phrase soft skills. I think these are really hard skills, to be honest, mixed with digital skills to look at data analysis. Data is becoming a huge area in life at the moment, and data science jobs do pop up quite regularly. So if we can use the tool to support that kind of thing, then that's what we would love to achieve. So how can students think about or use their digital skills while they're at university or an organisation for their education? We've probably all seen lots of different ways of using immersive technology now to develop authentic learning experiences. In particular, I know lots of medical students at universities do that. I've seen some fantastic work with immersive technology in colleges, even to study English literature. Phenomenal bits of work going on there. But students need that support, and obviously staff would need that support too. So the Discovery tool can really help with that. We need to think about how we can embed digital fluency throughout the curriculum and supporting that student journey, exposing them to different technologies. The more we expose them to different things, the more comfortable and competent they might feel. And then we might see those results reflected in their personal reports when they take a question set. Ultimately trying to model and achieve that attitude of lifelong learning and support within our organizations multidisciplinary teaching and learning. thinking about how digital is giving us new pedagogical models so that we can support those digital skills all of the time in as many different ways as possible, so that people are really ready, raring to go when they finish their course and they know what's expected of them afterwards. And of course, I think it's really important to outline that if we want to support students successfully, we also need to support staff successfully too. And that's a big issue within the Discovery tool. We are looking to do another session based on supporting staff, which we'll hopefully have the dates for soon for you. And we look at different areas where we can support our staff as well to support students. So what is being done currently? So not only are we using digital fluency as a starting point of what we can see within the sector, we're also seeing colleges, universities thinking about digital fluency as a sustainable task throughout the course of time that somebody is with us. If you can embed this kind of thing within your curriculum, that is a really key marker of success. We see a number of colleges and universities who embed these digital skills within different courses, and that makes it much more meaningful and relevant. We've got a number of universities who've been able to, and I'm not saying this is easy or you can do it yourself successfully, but if you can create a first year accredited modular course, that has been proven to be really successful too. If you're working in a different type of organization, maybe you can create an employability / digital course. There's a college in the northeast of England who does this a 10-week course. All of their learners, they've got some fantastic results from using the Discovery tool and working on employability and digital and mixing those two together. Careers and employability as a rule becomes really important. We've got one university that uses their alumni networks and surveys their alumni after they've finished at their university to find out what employability skills and digital skills they've needed. And then they're feeding that work back into their system of student support for their current intake, which is a fantastic way of using data to make sure that it's a virtuous cycle of development all the way through. So keeping those close links with what employers need, finding out from students how they've felt about their journey, and then feeding that back in for the new intake and supporting that in slightly newer ways consistently, a great idea. And if we can help promote that lifelong learning, then fantastic. The chance to reflect is really important as well. So I've mentioned Digital Experience Insight Surveys that we refer to as DEI within JISC. They allow a university or a college, an organization to ask a number of questions of their students, of their staff, about their digital experiences. And then that data can be used to feed back into the Building Digital Capabilities service with the Discovery tool. So allowing you to get that information from all angles and continuously develop your journey as you move through. But not only that, get the evidence to prove how well you're doing. Theme 4 of the Digital Experience Insight Service focuses on you and your digital skills, and that can really give you some powerful data to prove to exec teams, leadership teams to say, we're doing really well here, can we have some more support? Or we've got an area of weakness here, can we get some support in making this a strength, please? So having that time to stop, reflect, get the data, use the data is a great way of approaching this to make it as successful as it possibly can be. What are other organizations doing and how else might we roll something out to be successful? Planning is really important. Our discussions with organizations always talk about that initial step about planning how they're going to do it with their unique situation, their resources, their opportunities and challenges, and how that might roll out within their particular establishment. Thinking about pre-induction and induction is really useful. Once the student has their university college email address, they can access the Discovery tool. So how might we embed that into that transition period? We might create digital development modules, have tutorial conversations that support that throughout the person's journey, which will then allow them to develop in exactly the right way for them. Considering the emotional response, as I mentioned earlier, is another key aspect of a successful rollout. And if we can embed this in the curriculum, we've got a far greater chance of making it more meaningful, more relevant, and therefore successful. As an ex-FE library manager, I know library staff are filled with, I'm going to say overworked people, but also passionate, excellent, well-trained, perfectly, well, yeah, superb staff. So can we use the library service? Can we create drop-ins? Can we try and spread the load so it's not just me and my small department doing this? And we can then hopefully get other people on board to support this. There's lots of evidence that appointing student digital champions works really well too. So those key people around the university or the organisation that can act as models, as lighthouses, as support areas, that can be really useful in having a very successful rollout. If you do have the resources, rewards and prizes never go amiss, which probably speaks for itself. Lots of organisations now, and colleges in particular, I see this with, create their own DigiFest. So every year, JISC puts on their digital festival, DigiFest, but lots of organisations are doing this themselves. So maybe 1 week of a different focus every day, which really supports the use of digital development across the organisation. One of those days could be a discovery tool festival as well, where everybody's completing a question set, getting their report, finding out what's next for them. So those types of ideas can be really powerful as well. Linking with your local colleges. So we've got some evidence where some universities are linking with the local colleges, which are maybe the feeder college for them, and then having a sort of a wider system of digital development so that as a university, you know, you've got people coming on board with some digital skills, you know where their issues are and how to support them further. Colleges get the advantage of linking closer with universities too. We have a much more unified system, but also working with our employers again to tailor that offer. Think about what our employers need. How can we then support that so that when somebody leaves, they've got the right skills, but also in attracting prospective students too. If we're really focusing on their employability skills and showing that offer before they turn up, we might get a few more people coming to us than competitors. So the Discover Tool is one element of what we can do to successfully approach digital development for our students. Two other things that you might be worth thinking about. We've mentioned digital experience insight surveys, which work really well with the Discover Tool and allow you to get that data every year from your students, from your colleagues, to find out how they view their digital experience, and we can develop from there. But that little sidebar on the left there from online surveys, you might find really handy as well. Online surveys allows a college, university, or any other organisation a dashboard with unlimited surveys if you buy into the full package, which is exceptionally cost effective and way more cost effective than SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics, that kind of thing. So if you've got students who are using surveys for their own studies, as your own organisation, you might have umpteen departments looking to survey people on different things, then the online surveys might help. And you might then be able to use that type of information to support that general digital development within your students and your colleagues as well. So have a think about how those other tools might support you in rounding off the approach that you really would like to achieve at your organisation. So what I want to do now is, hopefully, yes, I'm bang on time, so that was almost perfect. What I would like to do is, if the Padlet link could go into the chat, Grace, if you haven't already done it, I can't see the chat at the moment, or if you use the QR code, what we'd like to do, I'm going to stop sharing here just to see if there are any questions, and then we'll jump onto the Padlet and have hopefully some discussion to find out from you about your own challenges, your own thoughts as well. Any questions from any of my colleagues? Have there been any questions pop through that we need to focus on?
Nothing, Andrew, at the moment.
Oh, okay. So what I'll do is I'll share the Padlet on here. And what we would like to do, and hopefully it works perfectly, is just to ask you to have some thoughts and some comments on your own experiences. So on in column 1, if you're on your phone, you'll probably see them all 4 bunched together. So hopefully the numbers can support the journey here. So what digital challenges do your students face? Based on those, what approaches have you tried so far? What challenges do you and your colleagues face in supporting students for digital development? And what approaches might you begin now based off what we've went through so far? So I'm really keen, if somebody would like to take the mic, please feel free to do that. We'd love a conversation to start, or feel free just to pop some comments into the Padlet there, and we'll find out from you what your issues are, and that will help us to drive the tool and the service to be even better for you in the future. So if anybody does have any comments and would like to take the mic, please feel free to do so now, or if there's any chat going on now. Any comments or questions in the chat and to reflect on? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, I missed the sound there. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. No, nothing there at the moment.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Just seeing if anyone will put anything into the Padlet or feeling
I'll
brave
just
enough for the mic.
refresh. So based on our conversations that we have, obviously day in, day out with the organisations we work with, and obviously we've seen from the data at the beginning of the presentation, a number of challenges that students do face. Probably one of the biggest ones is how do we fit everything in, and how do we make this feel like a seamless approach to our own studying? So that's one of the big things to think about is, why does this matter to me? What do I need to do, and how can I do this as easily as possible? So there's maybe some behavioral science going on as well. How can we make the support accessible and easy to access, and the support seem meaningful and relevant, so that I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep engaging with the services so that I get exactly the support that I need. Any of the approaches that you've seen so far that maybe mirror the ones that you have used, or have you used any different approaches so far? A really interesting point there about the challenges you face about online spaces are a bit all over the place. That I would heartily agree with that, not just for universities, but colleges too, because we get sometimes a real mishmash of different virtual learning environments. The college I used to work at went through a merger, and at one point we had 3 different virtual learning environments to try and navigate for our students. So trying to do something across the board became really difficult. And I think that's a really, whoever's added that, thank you for that. That's a really key issue. And that's why I've suggested using the libraries as a place to meet students where they are. It might not be ideal for everybody, but sometimes it can allow us to shortcut those general issues. So thank you for that. Digital challenges students face. Jessica, thank you. Put in equipment and Wi-Fi as a common story, as well as students' time, actually a willingness to engage. I think that's, for me, one of the most important things. We often see that with reluctant staff, but it can be with reluctant students too. Information literacy is part of the discovery tool, but I think, again, another great point to say that how do we help people discern good information from bad information online? I think that's really, really important, and it's becoming, the past couple of years, become ever more important. Understanding what level your students are currently at, the discovery tool is really good for that, in allowing a sort of a baseline, a benchmark right across your organization, so you can see just a general rule. Maybe information literacy skills are low, maybe digital creation skills are high, whatever it might be, whatever the area of digital capability is. So that can be hopefully supported within the discovery tool. AI, of course, the big buzzword at the moment, and how do we use that well? Absolutely just limited to the smartphone outside of college. The discovery tool does work well on a phone, but we appreciate the support needed after that might need some extra solutions. So yeah, it's a great point. students overestimate their skills. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And what we find a lot with the discovery tool, certainly in the initial discussions we have with people, is those who are rolling this out are worried about people overestimating and underestimating their skills. So what I often advocate for is the old garbage in, garbage out message. If somebody puts the wrong or doesn't think sort of carefully around the questions that they are facing, they might miss out on training they need or go on training they don't need. And it's trying to, I think it's a really important issue there is working out that balance between what you think your skills are and what they actually are, and how do we address those things. So somebody mentioned there that I've got an academic skills section. Yeah, as part of one at a university that I used to work at, and we used to be housed in the library too. I think that's a really important thing. And bringing in digital skills to that might be a great idea too. A digital induction, superb idea. And lots of colleges and universities are thinking about that now, because often digital has been a bolt on, has been sort of supplementary and not really part of what's going on. So having that as part of induction, I think, is a really powerful thing. Obtaining investment, there's two huge words there. I don't know how we can support with that much, but I think that's a really key point someone's made there. So if you can get the right technology from the powers that be, that can be a big difference. I do know from some of my discussions that some of these tools are really good in influencing leadership to take those decisions. So especially digital experience insight surveys, that's really useful in showing to the boards, this is what people are saying at the moment, this is where we need the support. And also the discovery tool, if we're saying to somebody, this is the data to say, this is where all of our people are, we need some investment to make sure we support people in exactly the right ways. And a point there in column 4 about being more creative in the design of assessments. Absolutely, AI has demanded that in general too, but also thinking about how we can use assessments to embed the need for digital skills too, I think is really interesting. That would be something that's really useful for us to follow, actually. I think it's something that we could learn a lot from within JISC too. A big one's just popped up in column 3 there, and getting the support of academic departments is really important in this. And it might be that you start off with pilots with some of the really keen cohorts and then roll that out across your organization. But that can be a big issue if and what I mentioned before, involving staff in a successful student approach is really key here. Limited staff and time, resources, and buy-in is absolutely to create a coordinated campaign. I think you're absolutely spot on there. It can be really difficult if you don't have the resources and the leaders. Having a top-down approach, we might not appreciate it that much sometimes, but for things like this, it can give us really powerful levers to get things done. And that's why I would really always advocate as well for linking with your local employers, because that allows you the right levers for your exec teams to hopefully influence them in the right way for you. Thinking about what employability skills, so that progression is there. You can support achievement within your own departments, but the progression can become even more improved by linking in with the employers. And then that might get people to listen more closely to what you're saying as well. Some great points there. And I'm not suggesting I have all the answers. Everybody's experience is very unique and very different. But hopefully you can see some common threads, and hopefully from some of the lists of the approaches that have been successful so far, we can start to visualize how we might do things within our own organization. Someone's just put their teams-based community of practice for students. An absolutely fantastic idea. My colleague Becky had a student panel discussing digital skills and events just last week, which was really successful. And we're looking to do much more of that as well, bringing the students and trying to get to the students themselves so that they can be the standard bearers for further student development. That's a great idea. Oh, Anne, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, just whilst we're kind of going through the Padlet, Andrew, there's a few things that are probably popping up into the chat pane that would be
Okay.
of interest as well. So just a
Let me
couple of things just to
right, I'll stop
mention.
sharing. Yes, please, Anne.
So Kim from the University of Reading is just talking about the fact that they're on the sort of beginning of their digital capability journey, but very keen to understand a bit more about the digital student champions.
Mhm.
So whether we've got something to share
Yeah,
in that space, or whether it's
absolutely.
more
I'll
things within
jot
the community might be useful.
I'll jot that down and I'll get. Did you say it was Kim at Redden?
Ready? Yeah.
I'll get Becky to reach out to you, Kim, and she can talk to you about specifically university digital champions, which might be more appropriate.
Yeah. The other point, Deborah from Spurgeon's is talking about with their students, particularly with doing some sort of baseline assessment as part of their induction, which helps them to support them with their ongoing
Mhm.
digital development. So that's really good. So we're really interested to know a bit more about that, Deborah, actually,
Yeah.
in terms of how you're doing that at Spurgeon's, and particularly how your students are reacting to that as well would be really useful to know too.
And the new question set within the Discovery tool is quite good for that because it is a much more pared down version and can, it only takes a few minutes to complete, and that might give you just a nice flavour of starting points. Lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anne.
And no, just a couple more bits as well. I think just as these sorts of things start to sort of spur people's thoughts and ideas, but certainly, a key thing that Mary's mentioning as well from David Game is about, one of their key challenges is really making sure that everyone, how do they actually make everyone aware of what is available to them and how they can best support them across the organisation. It's very difficult to get that communication out, isn't it, to the right people in the right way. So I think that's a
Absolutely,
very good point.
absolutely. Mary, I think Mary is at Lincoln College. Because I'm the FE consultant, if you want to have a chat, Mary, please let me know. I'll put my email address into the chat if you want to send me an
That's
email.
Mary from David Game.
Oh, it's all right. Well, that's okay. We can
Yeah.
still have a chat anyway. Just
Yeah.
my organisation's mixed up there. But yes, let us know. We
Okay.
can have a chat.
Okay, thanks.
So
Sorry,
I
Anne,
think
go on.
that's
Yes.
no, that's okay. And that's seconded by Lincoln as well. So Rose
Right,
from Lincoln College. So yep. So
The messaging is really important, and
yeah,
how
we
we
do
get
a
people
lot of
to,
work around that, don't we, to help support
yeah,
all of our customers within that. So
from little things such as there are posters you can edit and download on the website to speaking at events within colleges, universities, where we're really keen to do anything like that. If sometimes that external voice can be really powerful for getting people to hear the message that you've been trying to get across for the past God knows how long. So if we can support anything like that, please let us know. We're really keen to do that kind of thing.
and again, Mary from David Game was talking about, the difficulty in getting, students to engage, in terms of, unwillingness to share the information as well. So we're quite aware of that kind of issue across the sector, aren't we? Hence our approach in the way that we deliver this. So
Absolutely. So
yeah.
currently, just to let everyone know, the information, the data is anonymous within the Discovery tool, but we are having discussions around that. And we hope at some point there probably will be some kind of toggle switch so that an organization can toggle between the two. But that's still, in discussions rather than production, I suppose, at the moment. But yes, I think for me, I would like to think that if I was doing this as a student or as a member of staff, that having a conversation with the right person at the right time means that I would be supported in exactly the right avenue for myself rather than doing something that feels irrelevant and meaningless for me. But trying to create bespoke pathways for thousands of people can be exceptionally difficult. Lots of colleges, universities will host different sessions based on the 3 levels. So we've got the developing capable and proficient. They might put on a session which looks at digital communication, whatever that might mean for the organization, at those 3 levels, and try and get to people that way as well, so that we are showing essentially a timetable of support aimed exactly at the level and the area that I might need for my own development. So that can be a useful approach as well. Any other comments or queries there, Anne, do you think?
Kim's just agreeing with Mary really in terms of that assessment piece and trying to embed it. So yeah, I think that can be easily picked up with Becky working with Kim.
Absolutely, and that's probably likely to be a university-wide approach as well. I'm going to guess that everyone's looking at assessments now, and if we can embed digital skills into that process, then that's even better. Lovely. Okay, it looks like maybe the comments and questions are drying up now.
I think we've calmed down a little bit now. Yeah, it's all good. It's just really interesting to hear what's going on across, the sector really, and understanding how people are approaching it, understand the challenges, the barriers, and looking at what we can do to help and support. So
remember as well that there's a commonality in this, so please don't feel that you're alone. If you are signed up to the service, remember you've now got your JISC gang that can support you too, and it's important to remember that we would like to support you in whichever way we possibly can, so you get the best out of the whole service. But absolutely, there's lots of challenges, as there is with any kind of getting a human being to do anything, I suppose. But we've got, hopefully, a really good community of practice to offer their ideas and tips and tricks, and also the staff within JISC to support you further. So, time's pushing on, so I'd like to say a huge thank you to all for coming and participating in that session. You have my email address, so please get in touch if you need to. We'll hopefully see you soon for the staff engagement, the staff approaches session. But until then, have a great day, and thank you so much for coming along.
Happy.